The sensual spirit versus the Holy Spirit. The sensual spirit versus the Holy Spirit. This video is going to be chock full of details, primarily details only. What details am I going to talk about? I'm going to talk about the sensual spirit's army, the details regarding the sensual spirit's army, and the details regarding the Holy Spirit's army. What are the details of the sensual spirit's army? And what are the details of the Holy Spirit's army? Who is and or what is the sensual spirit and or what is the Holy Spirit and or who is the Holy Spirit? Details. First, what is spirit? Spirit is a non-physical part of a person. What is the non-physical part before I move on? The non-physical part is what you would label and describe as the electromagnetic force, the energy in which courses through our veins, giving us our abilities to be. The non-physical part of a person, which is the seat of emotions and character, the soul. The seat of emotions and character, the soul. In other words, spirit is the seat of the soul. What is the soul? The soul is your emotion and your character. The soul is your emotion and your character. Naturally speaking, they are. Or naturally speaking, it is. The soul is your character naturally and your emotion naturally. The soul is. And the soul is the king of all kings, whereas the spirit is the queen of all queens. That's what that means. The spirit's essence, the spirit's energy, is what you will label and describe as divine feminine energy, whereas the soul's essence at its core is what you would label and describe as divine masculine energy. Divine masculine energy and divine feminine energy. The spirit is divine feminine energy and the soul is divine masculine energy. The spirit at its base are what you would label and describe as the five senses. And the soul at its core base is the pneuma of the five senses. In other words, the soul manifests itself through our senses. The soul manifests itself through our senses. Through the spirit, the soul breathes. Through the spirit, the soul sees. And through the spirit, the soul eats. And through the spirit, the soul believes. Through the spirit, the soul is able to be. More details. The sensual spirit's army. Sensual. Why do I keep saying sensual? Because of senses. Sense. Sensual. Sensitive. Sensitivity. The enemy is hypersensitive at the current moment in time. Reason why is because the enemy's world was built on top of lies. And any amount of truth that gets into this world tears it down. So they always react to certain truths being spoken or spoken on in a way that is, I want to say, childishly arrogant. Childishly arrogant in a sense. Or in a way of panic. Or in a way of just straight up evil. You follow me? The sensual spirit is on the side of good. The Holy Spirit is the side of evil and the side of lies. As always, you can choose to watch this video or not. You are not obligated to watch me or listen to my words. The oppressive body is. More details about the sensual spirit. The senses. The senses come from what is known as prana. Prana. What is prana? Prana is breath, considered as life-giving force. Spirit, in Latin, in its Latin origin, is breath, or is pronounced spirare, meaning breathe. To spirit us, meaning breath, spirit. Prana is breath, considered as life-giving force. Ether, just to mention it, because I'm getting ready to in a moment anyways. Ether is air, and or the sky, and or the upper regions of air, above the heights of the clouds. This is what ether is, or some may call it heaven. You follow me? So you got ether, spirit, and prana. All three of these things are breath and or are air in which we intake, and which comes from prana, because ether, spirit, air, and prana are all one and the same things. You follow me? There is a word in Sanskrit for ether, and it's called akasha, Like I said, this video is going to be full of details, just telling you things that'll get ready to line up this entire army that I got going up against this here, the evil army. It's all in spirit, by the way. I'm just pretty much putting out the details of the spiritual army, in which will really be going up against the evil of the evil army in the spirit. You follow me? These are just details. Akasha. The word Akasha is the Sanskrit word for ether. So this means, if you want to see it this way, because I see it this way personally, the Akasha is the queen of all queens. The Akasha is the goddess of all goddesses. Akasha is the queen of queens. And Akasha is the god of goddesses. That's what the Akasha is. Akasha is ether. Ether is spirit, or air, or breath. And the very essence of ether, spirit, breath, or prana, the essence of its core energy and activity, is feminine, or what you would label and describe as feminine. In other words, it's force, a motivating force, in other words. Through the spirit, the soul breathes. A motivating force. Did you ever notice how football players get when cheerleaders are on the field with them? It's like they get energy to do more, don't they? Yeah, our women give us energy to do more. Our women give us energy to do more. Without our women, we will have little energy to do more. We will just have survival energy. Let's just put it that way. Without our women, we only operate on survival energy. And that's difficult due to who established this world in which we have here today. You follow me? So moving forward. Prana, ether, Akasha, spirit, air, breath. All of these things are one and the same thing, just with many, many different names and many, many different attributes that all ultimately just do one thing, in which the attributes, as the multitude of attributes they all just simply do one thing: give you your life and your abilities to live them. You follow what I'm saying? Moving forward now, more details about my spiritual army, or the Queen spiritual army, Queen Akasha spiritual army, the Queen Goddess Akasha spiritual army, or the Goddess Queen Akasha spiritual army. This is what I'm going to consider her. The Goddess Queen Akasha chakra. Akasha chakra. What is a chakra? A chakra in Indian thought, each of the centers of spiritual power in the human body. Spiritual power. Spiritual power is what a chakra is. And the ether, and or the Akasha, and or the prana of the universe is spiritual power. So that means the Akasha chakra is the queen of all queens. The Akasha chakra is the goddess of all goddesses. The Akasha chakra is my queen, whom I trust. I trust my queen because I know who my queen is to trust. My queen is true. My goddess Queen of Chakra, Queen Akasha chakra, is true. And I know her very much, very familiar with her. And right now, currently, I am trying to, or essentially getting ready to have another baby with her, have another son, by planting seeds and or impregnating my Akasha with the seeds of my words into her bosom, though so that they may manifest to and throughout the people as what she is. And my queen just so happens to be a combination of her king and herself in one, but it's just energies. It's just an energy parable. Don't forget that. Meaning the soul is married to the spirit, and we, as the physical people in this reality in which we have here, are the son of the soul and the spirit. We are the children of the soul and the spirit. The soul is our father. The spirit is our mother. And we are the child, one species, one life form. We are the child of the soul and the spirit. You follow what I'm saying? More details. The soul manifests itself to and throughout our spirits as not only just the pranas, but also characteristics of itself. More details about pranas though. There are 5 pranas. Prana being the first one. Then the second one, in order, being Udana prana or Udana vayu. I'll tell you what vayu is in a moment. And then the third one, in order, samana, vision. Then the fourth one, in order, vyana, emotion. And then the fifth one, apana, the ability to let go of what we no longer need or want. The energy to let go of what we no longer need or want is what the apana is. Jesus, this phone thing. Apana is the energy to let go of what we no longer need or want. This is what apana is. More details about the 5 pranas though. There are also Hindu gods linked to these 5 pranas. They're called devas, D-E-V-A-S, apostrophe S of course, or S with the apostrophe at the end of it because it's signifying that there's multiple of them, not the ownership of one. Devas in Hinduism is what these gods in which are attached to these pranas are called. And these individual gods, I also consider these individual gods I'm getting ready to tell you about as the generals or the soul generals. I'm the soul's first lieutenant. They're the soul generals of my Queen of all Queen Akasha's, the goddess Queen Akasha's spiritual army. They're the generals of them. According to how I'm just having it set up right now for it to all make more sense to me and get ready to shatter the city in which is being built in our spiritual realm. Come out of her. I'll tell you what her is in a moment. But see, here's the thing though. These here generals in the spirit, they're Hindu gods or Hindu devas. You follow me? Devas are a lot like the Orishas, as the Orishas are a lot like the angels. You follow what I'm saying? Or the archangels. You got devas or pharaohs from Egypt, right? You got devas from Hinduism, pharaohs from Egypt. Then you have Orishas from Yoruba, Nigeria. And then you also have angels and archangels from theology. All 4 of these things represent essentially the same thing. Spirits and or spiritual beings, spiritual guides, but which are in reality our natural divine character traits. That's what they are, our natural divine character traits. Now here's more sense for them to make right here. So, there is something in Hinduism known as the Pancha Mahabhut. The Pancha Mahabhut. The word Pancha means 5. And the word Mahabhut means great elements in Hinduism or Sanskrit. You follow me? And the Pancha 5 are what label and describe how not only these specific deities or these devas, what they represent and how they manifest to and throughout humanity, but they also represent how our 5 base senses work as well. In other words, these devas I speak of manifest themselves to and throughout our senses, our elemental senses, because that's what they are, that's what they represent. They're elements in which manifest themselves to and throughout our senses as one of each of those 5 pranas I just mentioned to you. You follow what I'm saying? Like, here's the list of them. Queen Akasha, the goddess of all goddesses. By the way, I personally just made this one up. I personally just said Akasha is the queen of all queens. And I'm also throwing this out here because I want to combat against Helena Blavatsky's idea a little bit in regards to the Akashic records. Because let's not forget, the word Akasha is what the word Akashic originally was before Helena Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society switched it all up within the 1800s or 1870s. You follow me? Helena Blavatsky was born 1831, died 1890. And she, when I studied the information, it was around the 1870, 1880s is when she got the Theosophical Society to establish the Akashic records versus leaving the Akashic records as the Akasha, which is the Sanskrit term for ether. It's almost like she wanted our source of prana, because that's what the Akasha is. The prana source is what I'm getting ready to tell you about in a moment. It's like she wanted our prana source to be their information and or what they are versus the air in which gives us our lives versus awareness of prana consciousness. You follow what I'm saying? So, another reason why I'm choosing, just another reason, Plus, it also makes more sense to call it this. Another reason why I am choosing to say Akasha is the queen of all queens is because, for one, she is, or it is, and two, to combat against that idea there, the Akashic records. I'm sticking with the Akasha, not the Akashic records. And the goddess of all goddesses is the Akasha, what used to be called the Akashic records. It ain't going to be called Akashic records no more. It's just going to be called the Akasha Prana or the Akasha Chakra. The Akasha Chakra is the Akashic records, in other words. But soon it'll just be the Akasha Chakra, no Akashic records. The Akasha Chakra, the source of all prana. The Akasha Chakra, the source of all prana. Goddess of all goddesses, queen of all queens. This is my queen and who I trust, Akasha. And Akasha manifests herself through our sensory factor hearing as prana. Breath, considered as life-giving force, or just life-giving force. You follow what I'm saying? Prana is where the air comes from. Prana is where the air comes from. You follow me? It's where it comes from. Start there for a moment. Next, you have Vayu. Vayu is the god of air, wind, and breath. Vayu manifests himself as to and through our sensory factory feeling, our vessel. And he manifests himself as Udana. In other words, the upper intake of air. You follow what I'm saying? So in other words, the Udana Vayu and the Udana Vayu absorbs the air from the Prana Vayu. Udana Vayu is what manifests as absorbing air from the Prana Vayu. If this makes sense to you, this makes sense to you. And Vayu is one of the generals of Queen Goddess Akasha's spiritual army. You follow what I'm saying? He's one of the generals to how I have it set up. And he manifests himself to and throughout our feeling or our touch as Udana Vayu, the upper intake. In other words, you follow what I'm saying? Just the intake alone, the intake. Next, you have the third one, Agni, the god of fire. Agni is the god of fire. Akasha's ether manifests as our hearing. Then you have Vayu, manifests as our vessels. Then you have the third one, Agni, the god of fire. Agni manifests to and through our sight, our vision, and he manifests as the Samana Vayu, the Vayu prana known as Samana. What is Samana exactly? Words like austere and aesthetic. Samana is the name for a certain wandering principle, wandering ideology. Aesthetic or austere, meaning very serious and solemn walking. You follow what I'm saying? And according to Hindu text, this style of vision was practiced most by who was known as Buddha. You follow what I'm saying? Buddha. Or Gautama Buddha. Gautama Buddha. You follow me? And Agni is one of the generals of Queen Akasha's army here. Queen Akasha's spiritual army that's getting ready to take down everything that's plaguing thy mind, heart, space. Because it's just going to contribute to the awareness of who and or what you are a lot faster. Moving forward. Next you have, which is not a god, but a thing, Jala. Jala means water in Sanskrit. Jala manifests what it is, or Jala is manifested to and throughout our sensory factor of taste. Taste is Jala manifested to and throughout. And it manifests as the prana known as Vayana. Vayana is, it represents, or it is the supporting function of all of the other four Vayus and all of the other four pranas. You follow what I'm saying? It keeps them connected, in other words. The taste does. And the sacral chakras, Vayana, the water element, Jala, or the thing known as Jala. What it is altogether, it's essentially the waters, according to the information, it's the waters that travel throughout the 72,000 nadis tubes. You follow what I'm saying? So Jala is the water that travels to and throughout all the 72,000 nadis tubes. And it our sensory factor of taste. Moving forward. Last one. Prithvi. The goddess Prithvi. Now, I'm going to do some more research on this specific goddess, because virtually all the goddesses of Hinduism, when you do their stories and you study them and you look at what's going on in their history, a lot of them were really bad for all of humanity. They really were. According to how I'm studying them and when I looked at their actual character and behavior, a lot of them were really, really honestly bad for humanity. So I'm going to look more into Prithvi. But Prithvi, according to what the information says, manifests herself. This is an earth goddess, the element of earth, the great element earth. She manifests herself to and throughout our sensory factor of smell as apana, the ability to let go of what we no longer need or want, or outgoing breath, the exhale. You follow what I'm saying? Now, recap on the generals real quick. Queen Akasha's generals. That's what you can call these three. Because it's only three goddesses. It's a thing, and then herself, Queen Akasha. The goddess Queen Akasha. So you got the first one, which is Queen Akasha herself, the manifestation of prana through our sound or through our hearing, ether. Then you have Vayu, the manifestation of Udana through our sensory factors of feeling. You follow me? Then you have Agni, the god of fire, which manifests himself to and through our sensory factor of sight as Samana Vayu. Then you have Jala, water, just the water element itself, Jala. It moves to and throughout our 72,000 nadis, and which gives us our abilities to have our emotion. Then you have Apana, or the goddess Prithvi, who manifests herself to and throughout our sensory factor of smell, the energy to let go of what we no longer need or want. Flushing everything to the Apana, flushing everything in the spirit to the Apana. I'm flushing everything in the spirit to the Apana. So I'm going to flush everything foul and within the spirit out to the Apana, the energy of which we no longer need or want, the outgoing breath. And what's going to happen when I flush everything foul in the spirit to the Apana? Everybody in the world will be able to see what was always plaguing thy mind, heart, space for the last 20 centuries straight. Why do they call it a 21st century? Random question. Why is it called a 21st century? Because when I look at the calendar that we're in, it says 2000. It doesn't say 2100. It just says 2000. Do you have some kind of expectation of another 100 years in which you're going to rule again? Because when you look at the 2nd century, it counted the years 100 to 200. When you look at the 3rd century, it counts the years 200 to 300. 4th century, 400 AD to 500 AD. 4th century, I said that wrong, didn't I? 4th century counted the years 300 AD to 400 AD. In the 5th century, and so on and so forth, counted the years 500 AD to 600 AD. You follow me? Why do you call them centuries? Why do you call them the 21st century when we're in 2025? Yes? Why are they called the 21st centuries? I just said the answer. You have some kind of evil, disgusting expectation that your rule and your law and your established constitutions and your established rights are going to last another 100 years. They are not. This here century, which is not the 21st century, you just call it the 21st century because you expect to get to 2100 with the way you have things going. Pure chaos spreading throughout the world. You're wrong. Now, details about the Holy Spirit. I just gave you details about the sensual spirit. I'm going to give you a few more later. Now I'm going to give you a few details about the Holy Spirit. What is the Holy Spirit? The Holy Spirit is this complex inside of your head in which I desire to destroy by bringing you awareness of who the Soul King and the Akasha Queen is. Akasha is spirit. Akasha is ether. Akasha is the goddess of all goddesses. Akasha is the queen of all queens. Akasha is breath. Akasha is the air you breathe. Akasha is the manifestation of prana. Now, this complex, this city in the spirit, come out of her, because she is the Holy Spirit. And the reason why I say she is the Holy Spirit is because the source of all immoral authority and or the government of this world is the Holy Spirit and is a woman. The Holy Spirit is the government of this world and the Holy Spirit is a woman. Akasha is energy in which the Holy Spirit herself even came from. So in other words, Akasha is essentially our cosmic grandmother, essentially, while the Holy Spirit is essentially our mom. The Holy Spirit is our mom. We were born from the Holy Spirit physically into the astral. We were born from the astral Holy Spirit into the ethereal or into the physical as the sun. We were born from the Holy Spirit. You follow what I'm saying? You don't have to buy that. It just makes the most sense to me for right now. And this here government has established within our psyches this city, this complex, made up of 4 corners with 7 belief system pillars on top of this here complex, or this here 4-corner mental spirit prison. You follow what I'm saying? And awareness of these things that I am telling you about is how we crush this city and blow it into the wind. So, what are the details of this city? There are belief system pillars. Belief system pillars, 7 of them in total. And there are 2 things outside, or 2 essences, or 2 energies outside, in which give this here foundation, these foundational grounds, their abilities to remain established. The first pillar is racism. The second one is feminism. The third one is foul sexual orientation. You all consider them the LGBTQ community or the LGBTQ behavioral practice, but I see it for what it really is, foul sexual orientation. And once those words, now that those words are being breathed out of my mouth into the physical, guess what? I am putting awareness of it into the physical, into the energy in which we no longer need or want. Am I saying the entire physical reality is energy in which we no longer need or want? Just what's built on top of the natural reality is the energy in which we no longer need or want. The 4th belief system pillar is the nerd geek pillar. This belief system pillar categorizes the rich, middle class, and all of ye who have been poverty-stricken due to colonization worldwide. And the 5th one, all of the gangsters, the melanated gangsters in particular. Did you know there are 33,000 gangs within this country alone, United States of America? There's about 300 in Jamaica, from what I just studied, and there's about 200 to 300 in Haiti. All of those different belief systems, and you all know we all fight each other due to our belief systems. So meaning all of your wars, they derive from your established belief system. All of your hatred derives from your established belief systems. All of your divisions derive from your established belief systems. And all of your desires to end one another's lives derive from the belief system in which the Holy Spirit established within thy psyche. These words are going to help shatter this city, obliterate it completely and entirely. More words. The next belief system pillar will be that of the tribes. There are 5,000 different tribes in this world. There are more gangs than there are tribes and religions combined. This conviction is going to see to it that every gang on this planet is united, or at least all of the melanated gangs. Once the foundation is fully established, we'll see if the recessive gangs will partner with the melanated gangs to take down the government, the actual threat here. Because essentially, what this is, long story short, 2 things. It's an heir versus sin parable, and or it's the gangs versus government parable. That's ultimately what I'm getting to. It's the sin versus sin parable, or heir versus sin parable, senses versus sins, because your senses come from the air, your senses derive from the air, your natural senses derive from prana, Your natural senses derive from prana, which is the akasha. So your natural senses derive from the queen of all queens, being driven through this world by the soul inside of you. And then you have the sins, which come from this government, whoever this government is, right? Whomever it is. It don't have to be the Holy Spirit. It could just be the source of evil. You don't have to call it the Holy Spirit. So it could just be the gangsters versus evil. Because that's ultimately what this is going to be. Two things. Air versus sins parable, or the gangsters versus the government parable, ultimately. Next, 5,000 tribes on this planet will all become one soul tribe. I omitted a certain detail in that spiritual dual parable that I'm going to add in this video. When I activate the unity spell known as soul reincarnation, instead of them becoming the soul tribe, they're going to become the soul theocracy. That's what they're going to become. When that special avatar summon, they're going to become the soul theocracy. And then finally, the religions. There are 4,200 to 10,000 religions known in the world today. Multiple belief systems causing your division. Multiple belief systems causing your wars. Multiple belief systems causing the reason why you hate and kill each other endlessly, tirelessly. And for the past 20 centuries, up into this here so-called 21st century that we are in today. Lots of volcanoes and lots of famines and lots of wars and lots of plagues and lots of briberies to do things. Let's never forget the so-called white people who are virtually responsible for all of those atrocities have existed now for approximately 6,000 years. And from what I'm gathering, logically speaking, all of those things that happened within the last 2,000 years were due to their meddling and due to their bribery and due to their childlike arrogance and their expectations to be able to continue doing it because they've established their rights in their constitutions to be able to do so. How did they establish their rights and constitutions? Like you said, my dear sister, they even colonized our feeling. And due to them colonizing our one soul feeling, we feel like their way is the right way to go. That is wrong. And these words are going to help shatter the idea overwhelmingly. Moving forward, the two things outside of this here city are fear and ignorance. Fear comes from the source of evil and also ignorance. And if we reverse ignorance to awareness, that literally tears the entire city to dust, disintegrates it, and then exposes what's giving the city its abilities to stand, or giving the pillars within the city its abilities to stand. And the energies in which gives the pillars its ability to stand are these 7 deadly sin principalities. First one being false pride and or vanity, which is excessive pride. Then you have envy or jealousy, because jealousy is envy, the quality or state of being jealous. Then you have the bottom corner, because to the left corner is pride and or vanity. Then to the top corner is jealousy. Then to the bottom corner is sloth, laziness. And then to the right corner is 4 things in one, because the right corner is the direction in which we need to go to the most, or the one we need to stand on the most, what's morally good and justifiable. Wrath, greed, gluttony, and lust, all in one. Those, their energies, are what gives these pillars to their abilities to stand within our city, you follow, or within this city. Not ours. It's theirs, or hers. It's just through these so-called white people worldwide is how she's able to establish this here city within our psyches. You follow what I'm saying? Or it. Doesn't have to be a she. But y'all are not every woman. You're you. You're you. You're the woman that you are. And the woman you only are. You're not a harlot. I hereby declare no harlots to exist. Only women. I respect women. I trust women. Harlots, stay away. Next. So, the generals that I just mentioned of the of Queen Akasha's army are going to be going against the city of the Holy Spirit's army. You follow what I'm saying? And more details before I move on. Also, too, a part of the Holy Spirit's army, or the government's army, or the white supremacy body in which I analyzed, meaning the white fighters, the white leadership, and the white civilians. The white fighters being the military force all around the world, the white leadership being the government of all 195 countries, and then the white civilians being within these countries that practice the art form of the devil's subtle nature. For the white fighters, which we will need to fight against first, the gangsters meaning, they handle the devil government's force of violent force of nature. Then you have the leadership, they handle the trickery force of the devil's nature. And then you have the white civilians, they handle and/or manifest the subtle force of the devil's nature. But it's all the devil's nature. And what does the devil's nature consist of? Ensuring they keep you controlled or in line towards a pathway of failing at everything and suffering to death. The devil only wants you to fail at everything and suffer to death. That's what the devil's way is. That's what the devil's desire is. It ain't no test. It ain't nothing like that. It's simply trying to take you out. And through the white people, the devil's will manifests into our world. Through the white people, the devil's will manifests into our world. So what if we just take out them? Will the devil's will stop? Yes, but then no simultaneously, because there are a lot of melanated people in which the so-called white people coerced over these 6,000 years, especially within the past 2,000. Volcanoes and wars and famine. You know, the whole time I was sitting here wondering, when the King of Kings saved us, that's where the damage came from. But then when I start looking at the history more, I realize, no, they have the upper hand on us because of all the things they have done within the past 2,000 years to get the upper hand on us. It's not necessarily because of some sky god. It's due to their actions, and it always has been and always will be. They just wiped it all away. So in other words, just like they're doing in Africa right now, they're the reasons the continents have been split and had people growing up on a specific island thinking it's